Super BS. Well, here we are back again. We have not been canceled yet. And I'm joined here on this so-called gaming podcast about video games mostly by the little baby boy. Who is this? Who's this baby boy?
A lovable baby boy, Brank, back from the dead and ready to break some bread. One more show, as we said, before we get canceled. Okay, we're going for it. We're going to do the never been done before quad Pete. Okay, no one's ever made it 4 episodes without getting canceled. So we're going to do it. Joe Rogan, eat it. Sorry you didn't make it 4. You only made 3, but we're doing all 4.
Who's Joe Rogan?
Oh, he's a nobody. He didn't even make it to 4 episodes. So he's an unknown person who tried to podcast once. We're doing 4.
We all fall short sometimes, you know. I'm also joined here by our good friend Gerald Glassford. Gerald, what's going on, man?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Just looking forward to sharing even more gaming memories. I know that over the course of my time playing video games, one thing I have accrued is a whole heck of a lot of memories. That's for sure. And I had so much fun the last time we did it. Let's do it one more time.
Most of his memories are bad because they're of Superman 64. So that's his only
I kind
game.
of skipped that one. Yeah. The 64 games I played with Superman was not included in that.
Oh, well, you're not going to like my good memories, which might bring up a game that's traumatic for you about a certain Caped Crusader.
Watch out. Watch out.
Already getting too
fly through those hoops.
That's what the games are all about.
All right, before we get started, I got a little question for you boys. I know we're all RPG fans of various degrees in here. When you guys in the little mini game that us amateurs like to call skill tree building, do you guys prefer to put those points? What do you think is most important? Right, health, strength, or whatever they title the one that lets you like talk to people and be really good at convincing
persuasion,
people.
charisma,
persuasion. That's it. Yes. All right. What do you got for me?
Gerald, you go first.
I go with strength. I always take, like for instance, I was telling Brank, I'm back into playing Oblivion. I'm actually going to try and see if I can finish it as far as do the main, go through the main quest and see if I can finish it all the way this time. And I am trying to load up on my strength because it just, in this case with Oblivion, it's advantageous for me because it allows me to hold more stuff, being able to hold more weight, being able to carry more equipment. And for me, that's very important for what I do because I like to grab stuff. I like to get stuff. I like to collect stuff.
Gotta collect stuff.
And then I like to sell stuff and get a lot of gold in return.
Well, you need that charisma for that selling stuff, or else you're going to get the worst prices.
You haggle the prices. But do you
I
remember
do a little bit. I do a little bit of haggling. Sometimes I'm in a hurry and I just say, you know what, just give me whatever deal. I got a whole bunch of junk. All right, take it.
Do you remember in Oblivion, when the game first came out, I don't know if it still exists, but there was, we're speaking about gold. There's a glitch, right? You go into, what's the big circle city called?
I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, Imperial City? In
Imperial City, yeah. There's a weapon, there's a shop there, and if you go in and you like killed the guy inside, you had like 2 hours or something to go and just like scoop up every bit of gold that he had. Like he just had infinite golds just sat in there. I remember sitting in there for like an hour just pressing on the X button, like, and I just kept picking up gold. I don't know if they ever fixed that glitch, but I mean that was what made that game so easy for me. I guess that's cheating, but
why was it a 2-hour limit? What happened at the end of the 2 hours?
I don't know. It reset or respawn or something. It was a weird glitch, and I don't know like what. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't 2 hours. I don't know, but like I think I got a butt ton of money from this guy because he just kept like his gold just never completely went away.
Gold glitch, bro.
That's gold. It's like the infinite rare candies in Pokemon. You surf up and down whatever that island was called.
You get those candies.
Yeah.
Would you guys play a new Oblivion or a remaster, I should say, or a remake of it?
That's what I've already told Josh on the show because when it came out during the court case, that one of the things they were working on was a remastered version of Oblivion. That was the case, and I ever got to talk to Phil Spencer directly, I would just pull out my wallet. Here you go. Take my money, please.
Here's the wallet.
There are very few things, guys. I will on video games. I will take my money out ahead of time. Here you go. Absolutely, right there. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would absolutely play it again. You know, one of my favorite things about Oblivion, which I didn't do so much in Skyrim because they kind of made it more difficult, but in Oblivion, every time I was like too weak to kill something, I'd end up finding like a rock or a tree or something, and I just sit there and like shoot arrows at it over and over again until it died. And I felt like I was able to skirt around the rules of gameplay in Oblivion a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. Yeah, I have companions that don't want to be my companions anymore, but I'm forcing them to be my companions because instead of taking them from point A to point Z, I'm having them just take a nice Gilligan's Island 3-hour tour around the entire Cyrodiil area. So,
yeah, I think as the games progressed, they got rid of a lot of the things that gave it a lot of charm and heart, and that's not a bad thing. Like they got better in a lot of ways, but yeah, you could break the Morrowind and Oblivion, right? Especially Morrowind. I don't know how far you ever got into that one, but I'll never forget my friend showing me this thing where he got his athletics up to max, or maybe even higher than max, or whatever you can do. I don't know if there was a max in that game, but he then proceeded to take off all the clothes he was wearing and drop them on the ground, and then jumped over the entire city. And the game just jumped from like, yeah. And you could create your own spells in Morrowind. They definitely, as the games got better, and more like logically and production sound, right? There was more put in the games and the engines and stuff. They removed a lot of the ability to just break it whenever you want. There's still game-breaking bugs in all of them, but it's nothing like it used to be.
Now they're called mods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Branky Poo, you never answered my question though.
I answered it in spirit. Okay,
where do you
don't
put
have to
skills?
answer it.
Yes.
It depends on the game, honestly. Like if the game is like a very dialogue heavy game, and this almost never happens in games, right? Because people say this will happen, but it never is the case. If I can play the game without getting into combat, like if that is an option, I'll try like a charisma or persuasion like buff just to see what the game will let me do, right? But if the game's going to be combat heavy and charisma is just going to give me more like money at like a salesperson or bartering or whatever, right? I don't care about it. If charisma is going to help me with relationships with people, maybe I'll put some points. But honestly, I'm a health boy. Every game I go for health first because charisma is just it's not the safe bet. You never know what those developers are going to let you do with it. And strength's cool, but I'd rather be able to outlive just forever. Like I hate the idea of any game getting attacked and then dying immediately. Right? Like, and I feel like if you have enough health, you don't have to worry about if somebody jumps on you. Whereas like strength, yeah, if you're a glass cannon, then you can kill someone really, really quick. But if they attack you first, then, good luck. You got to recover and try to do all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you. I'm more putting points into health than anything else. Charisma bothers me a little bit because like you said, you don't know that you're actually going to need to have those charisma points until you come across a place where you actually need them. Like Elder Scrolls is point in case, right? Like there's certain side quests where you have to talk people into doing things or letting you do things, and you can't do it unless your charismas. And then, but also like you can't kill them because most of the time, I'm like, hey, can I go inside this building? Like, no, you cannot. And I'm not able to sweet talk them. I just like, all right, and I just kill them, and that's very violent. But that's what you do. But then in these side quests, you can't get the points for finishing the side quest if you end up killing the NPC that you need to talk to do it. So I don't know. Just I guess Mass Effect's on the other side of that spectrum where you do need charisma in order to properly seduce your shipmates or get access to their loyalty missions or whatever. But I don't know. Like a lot of games, I didn't actually put points into charisma until like my second playthrough. So anyways, but
like you may have missed out.
I know. But I don't know. I was just curious what you guys do because I never seem to make the right guess when I do things like that. I was playing a little bit of Atlas Fallen. Is that what it's called? They just put up on Games Pass, and they have a interesting system in there. So I don't know just what brought that question to the surface. Want to know what you guys' thoughts?
Atlas Fallen. They have charisma as like one of the options in the game.
No, they don't. You start off with
Okay.
this, like, you go through this. It's a really clunky game, so I don't know if I'm going to finish playing it, but you go through this 15-minute intro scene, and then you get to build your character, and it just made me think about, all those other games where you have to put points into things when you start and all that. But no, it does. I don't think it has skill building yet. At least I haven't gone to a point where it's shown that. All right. I know we wouldn't talk about any news save, but this is going to be ongoing, so I'm just going to throw one thing at you guys before we get into these gaming memories here. Nintendo has come out and said that they are going to sue Pocket Pair for Pal World. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. What do you think? Do you think that is this kind of like if the creators of Monster Hunter or Monster Rancher, what was it back when we were kids on PS1, Monster Rancher decided to sue Pokemon? I mean, is there a right to tiny little creatures on a map and capturing them?
You can take it first, Gerald.
Well, I mean, again, they better have, as far as Pal World, they better have some damn good lawyers, all I say, because and that's one of the things they're gonna try and prove to the court is that, hey, there are similarities, but the act of actually catching, and the way obviously in Pal World you do different things with the catching. You can put them to work, you can eat them, you can do a whole different things that you do in the Pokemon world, which is the niche of it. They're going to try and say that differentiates itself, or they could go down the satire route and say this is a game that's satirical in nature, satirizing the world of Pokemon. There's different avenues, but there are similarities enough where a court can say, hey, it's just too similar. But I don't know, in the world of video games, when there's so many entities that are crossing over and bleeding over into each other, because my gosh, when you go on a first-person shooter, how many times have you played a first-person shooter that bleeds over into another first-person shooter that you just played last week? Or in the case of one of the more recent games that came out, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, that looks like the developers got heavily influenced by the Gears of War franchise, which in turn got heavily influenced by Warhammer in the first place. So it's just so hard to have games out these days, or any media, whether it's television shows or movies, that truly separate and differentiate themselves, because so many ideas have already been done so many times.
Yeah, I think this one's an interesting one. I think a lot of people were surprised it didn't happen earlier. Pal World came out in January of this year. The lawsuit was just announced today. Maybe they wanted to spend time getting all their stuff ready. Maybe they wanted to see if it would make enough money, right? And now they know it's worth, like, it's a big enough fish to go after. Who knows? But there's a lot of like damning things about Pal World's creation that make me think Nintendo has a really good shot. I mean, if you look at their Pokemon Lucario and whatever the Pal World's equivalent is, or Electabuzz, or a lot of these others, they look almost identical, right? Now, the real question is, what happens if they win? Because to my understanding, Pal World is created by a Chinese company. They do not have the same IP laws that we do, right? So does that mean Pal World, if they don't want to pay, that Pal World would just be pulled off of like European and Western markets and Japanese markets and just stay open in China? Because they can't win in China, right? Like, this isn't going to win. I'll never forget hearing like the Chinese cover of Yellow in the taxi when I lived there. And there's no IP law really over there. So yeah, I don't see them winning totally. Like, I don't see Pal World going under. I honestly don't even know if Pal World will pay, right? Like, it depends on if Pocket Pair wants to do stuff in the US and the EU again. But I do think, I think Nintendo will probably win. I don't even know how they couldn't, if I'm just looking at it side by side, right? Like, the only thing I could maybe see is the court, and I don't know, I don't think they could, but maybe the court would be like, hey, the game's different enough. You can change the Pokemon, the pals, to look different and then pay like a modest fee. But I think Nintendo will come for everything. And they've proven that they're just like one of the most petty companies when it comes to lawsuits, right? Like, forgot who they sued, but there was somebody who did piracy, right? Like pretty much emulation. You could almost consider it game preservation. And it was
That's one thing we should have you guys should do an episode on, is emulation one of these days in detail. I was thinking about talking about doing that with Josh one day on the Cosmos. Right.
Yeah. It's very fascinating. And the truth is Nintendo has pretty much curtailed anybody's ability to have any type of game preservation via emulation, right? And not just places who charge for it, right? That used to be their caveat. Like if you were getting money for emulation to keep your site up, they would sue you. I believe one of their most recent legal battles was just against a place that didn't get any money. That was just had the emulation on the site, right? Had the ROMs. So yeah, I don't know. I get it, right? I mean, there's a reason why copyright law has changed in America so many times because of Mickey Mouse specifically, right? Like this is just big companies flexing, and I think Nintendo will probably win this. I just don't know what that win looks like, right?
I don't know if it's 100% because Power World, I would go hard on the satirical aspect if I was Power World. I would lean hard into that, and because it does look like a satire. I have seen it. Actually, my daughter played it right behind me when she was playing it on Xbox earlier this year.
Yeah, it was great. I played it.
It's a satire in many ways.
Yeah. The only thing I could see that has like striking similarities are the way you capture them, right? You throw the balls and
you don't think some of the designs are almost identical? Like there's like Electro Buzz is a design that they pretty much have exactly from the game. They have the Lucario character. They have like a penguin that looks like, I think it's Piplup or whatever. That was kind of one of the generations. They have the little monkey from I think it was DS or 3DS game. They've got characters, man, that look like almost identical, right? Like they have a comparison on IGN just so you can like see like all the ones that are one for one, right? They're just slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, IGN's quality journalism. I'm just kidding. But I don't know. Like this is, to me, it's like Pokemon ripped off dogs and cats and rats and things like that. So it's hard to say that like they have a claim on a creature that looks like a giant mouse. That's kind of gray water to me a little bit.
Again, I just think they're going to lead heavily into the satire. And for anybody still playing Power World out there, they're not going to close it down next week or anything, even if they lose. This was probably going to drag itself out in court and probably be a year before anything is ever even close to being decided. So,
yeah, I don't think something's going to happen about this immediately. And I'm unable to send this to both of you because I'm saying it from my computer. I could put it in a chat. But if Josh does ever open that link, then you'll see just how many of them there are. I mean, there's enough where it's like, hey, if you did this with one, I think maybe they wouldn't have a shot, right? But it wasn't just one of the characters. It's also, like you said, the way you capture them, all the things. And like you said, they could probably plead satire, but I just don't know. Nintendo is not, I mean, they don't back down. I actually don't know of a case they've lost, right? So I don't know if they would have brought this up if they thought they were going to lose it. So we'll see. It's an interesting one. I thought it was kind of wild that it's coming this late, especially because like this game was breaking records in January of this year and everybody was playing it. I thought they were going to like strike while the iron's hot, but I did hear they won some other legal battle. Can't remember which one recently. And maybe that's where like, hey, we got to actually go after this other legal battle because that sets precedent. And now we'll do this legal battle, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. I kind of just feel bad for Pocket Pair because it's like they may have made a lot of money off this, but they're not Nintendo. They're not the Pokemon company. I mean, they aren't.
They can wait. Nintendo can wait it out. Literally, they can drag it up for
they have the money for sure. Yeah, and then Power World still, our Pocket Pair is still like a small company, right? Yeah. So are they going to spend money on legal team, or what are they going to kind of just try to settle outside of court? It's hard to say.
It's hard. It's hard to know if Nintendo will let them settle outside of court. Like, what does that
Yeah.
look like? You know, 40%
Right.
of all profit ever. You know, I mean, like, what what does Nintendo
Yeah.
want? They're not known for being like
They're
very
destroy them.
forgiving.
That's what they want. They want to grind them into dust.
I mean, the last individual they got, like, he owes them money for like 30 years or something. The guy who had one of the emulation sites, and he was just like a no one, right? Like, he didn't have a ton of money. So,
That's
anyways.
crazy. It's crazy. And yeah. I mean, to think this is how they treat their fans, like people who obviously admire them enough to like do something based on one of their works. It's, I don't know, weird thing going on.
It'd be so
Yeah.
funny though. I've always talked to you, Josh, about one of the ideas that I think Nintendo should do is either go in with Arcade 1-Up or buy or create their own Arcade 1-Up machines, where that's, I think, one of the last bastions of untouched territory for them, is to do something like that. The full-size arcade machines, which ironically would be emulation.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
it would
waiting
be
for somebody
also
else to do it so they can sue them.
they were dipping their toes. Yeah, they could be doing that and then get all the money from it. There was a book, I think, called Game Over that I was reading about in the comments about this, and I guess they were talking about how Nintendo got more money during the Nintendo era from lawsuits than they did from actually making and selling games. So, I mean, like, what you're saying is totally possible, right? Like, if that's a big way that they make money, then that's what you do, right? There are those people who sit
Coffers
on
are pretty
IPs.
large from Mario and Zelda, though.
Yeah, but I just think, I mean, if you're making like the book at least describes them as making more money from lawsuits than games. So if that's true, right? Like, that's a part of your income, right? That's what you do, like the people sell on IP. But yeah, it's funny because you mentioned Arcade 1-Ups, because Nintendo did kind of dip their toes into emulation. They've done a lot of times, right? Whether you talk the Nintendo Switch Online. But do you remember the NES Mini, I think it was called, or the SNES Mini? Right? Like
Yeah.
the legacy consoles. And then people thought they were going to do Game Boy and N64 and they just stopped. Right? Like, that was a weird thing where they tried to, and then I don't know what they thought about the results. I know they were hard to buy, and then they just never did them again.
It's all about creating that desirability for them. But also
Doesn't
they
make
have like
sense, though.
No, it doesn't. But they also have like the sorry, it's not the same thing, but like the Retrons, right, that can play Nintendo games and from different eras. Like, I wonder what the rules are on that. Like, does that count as
I don't know.
copyright infringement?
I think if Retron ever got as big as Pocket Pair, then maybe we would know. They would probably be like, going for that suit. But I don't think, Retron's big, but I don't think they're hundreds of millions of dollars big, which is what Pal World got in January.
Yeah, right. All right. It's time. Let's do this. We're gonna light the campfire, sit around and talk about some memories here. We're gonna crank up the old, what do you call it, the old projector that has the little burn lines in it
We're
from
gonna be
going around the
singing
thing too many times. Yeah.
Kumbaya and
Oh,
Closing Time and all of the other songs.
All right, let's jump back into this gaming memories. Let's start. Anyone want to start us off today? I'll start it off last time.
You did?
I think I did.
I don't know. I can't remember that long.
All right, I'll throw one at us here. All right.
That doesn't bode well for a
great.
gaming memories episode. But
Yeah, I do. I would love it if this gaming memories, like, we listen to it back and it's literally the exact same gaming memories from the last time. You're like, man, I had this one memory. And then you look back, you're like, this is the exact same memory you started with last time and the exact same story, which we love. Everybody loves hearing the same thing twice.
Rise Electron. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right. So do you remember the days of Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo? They're going head to head over things. The game prices were completely unpredictable and completely insane, right? There's no level. Like today we have like $60, $70. When PlayStation came out, the games you could count on them being anywhere from like $39.99 to $49.99, depending on how many discs are in them and what kind of game they are. But back then it was like the Wild West. Like, you can go You could pay $60 for a game. You could pay $20 for a game. You could pay $50 for a game. Like there wasn't any like set standard to it. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They
So
didn't have a standard MSRP at that time. It was kind of whatever people thought the value, and that's how it's actually sold in Japan. When I was over there, like they still, and we're kind of getting back to that. We just have the standard set now at 70, but like a lot of games come in a lot lower. Sorry about not trying to go over you, but I just was thinking about that. That's how it was fun memory.
Yeah. So, being a kid and you want to buy a new game, like it's hard you don't know how much money you need to save up because you can't just hop on the internet and see how much something is. You have to actually go to the store and do the preliminary, like, oh, I want that. So now I'm going to spend the next 3 months working for it. And so to me, the first Sega game that I saw that I actually like really, really wanted was Virtua Fighter 2. And that was I think it was like $49.99. And so I spent the next couple months like working for my grandma, like pulling weeds and trimming her trees and things like that. And eventually like I had enough for this. And then I remember my grandma going, well, you can either use this money to buy that video game or you can put it into one of those bank accounts and that accumulates like 10 cents every year or something like that. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like,
grandma.
I know it's just the guilt. I'm like, oh man,
you made the right call, right? I'm hoping
right,
you didn't go to that
I'm like,
stupid bank.
Do I want to have an investment that accumulates money over time, or do I want to play Virtua Fighter 2? The answer was clear. I went and bought Virtua Fighter 2. The look of disappointment my grandma gave me is one that I will never forget. But after I closed the door and turned on the Sega Genesis, it all kind of just vanished. So
this is how you got the name The Despised One. You missed out on tens of dollars. If you would have put that money in that bank, you would have had tens of dollars of interest by now. You'd be able to buy one indie game on Steam on sale right now.
Or, Chick-fil-A 5 days a week. Who knows? It's
that is how the bank works. They offer that flip-flop. They say, do you want a Steam indie game on sale or do you want 5 days of Chick-fil-A? And it's like, these aren't the same value. And you're like, well, that's the choice. So that's how the banks work. I like that way.
This is currency. It's just it's currency. Everybody knows this. You took an economics class in high school.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, anyways, I look back on that and it was definitely something that sticks out to me. And I remember loving that game and playing it. Actually, it's the only fighting game I've ever beaten in my life. After that, like I just was not good at fighting games anymore because I didn't have the patience for them. But back when there were only 3 buttons, like, yeah, that's what it was all about.
That is what it was all about, bro. And that was the best of all time. Joe, were you a big Virtua Fighter 2 fan?
I was more Mortal Kombat. Yeah, but it was like I was already an adult by that time. I was already in my 20s when Virtua Fighter came out, so I didn't have as much time to spend. The early 90s was the last bit of time I really got to spend any time in the arcades, and that was just the dawn of Street Fighter, which I truly enjoyed. And then also when Street Fighter 2 came out, and they really upped the game. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat, which had the PTA, especially in Florida, really after them. So that was truly enjoyable to play for me at that time. But those were the only fighting games I could really get into. And then, by that time I was already working in industries, things of that nature. And by that time, my gaming was limited to going home and playing N64. And then, ironically enough, I jumped into one of the least popular systems of that time in the Saturn. And then going from there. So
Sega Saturn, man. What did you buy on that? What was your best game memory of the Saturn?
Daytona. Oh, I absolutely love Daytona. That actually, I want to correct because Daytona was something I would actually drive out to state line here in Nevada because as soon as I moved up, one of the things I did, because Daytonas, they came out as far as the arcades are concerned, one of the few that you could get or play as far as the ones that linked each other was at state line. So I would drive occasionally 40 miles to go to state line just to play the Daytona there, just to have a little fun. Yeah, dedication. It was really fun. And then, of course, when the Saturn came out, got that. Nights was pretty fun to play. And then Virtua Fighter, I played more of that on the Saturn because I had that a short period of time.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter on Saturn, I feel like, was a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had so they they had Virtua Fighter 1 and Virtua Fighter 2 I think came out on the Saturn. Virtua Fighter 1 was in the smaller, it's like in a jewel case, and then when Virtua Fighter 2 came out, it came out in one of the proper Saturn cases. But yeah, that was the Saturn had some fun stuff on it, but most of it you could play on other consoles, so it almost wasn't worth buying.
Yeah, it was a definitely not what Sega wanted out of their console, their follow-up to the Sega Genesis, right? I don't blame them. It did terribly. I'll hit you with one of my favorite memories. I apologize if I did this one last time because it's been a while. That's how good my memory is. It's like fire. But I don't think I did. This takes me back to not when I was a working boy, but when I was a wee little baby boy. I had just received the NES as a kid, probably previous, or my sisters received it because I had 3 older sisters about a year or 2 previous. And then one birthday, I'm opening up presents. And inside, and this was probably 95. So the Super Nintendo had been out for a bit. I open up a gift and I see a brand new Super Nintendo with a Donkey Kong Country.
Watch
cartridge.
out.
Oh my goodness. I turned that on. I played Donkey Kong Country was my first game for Super Nintendo. I believe I also got Super Mario World with it. But that was incredible. And then I want to say it was Christmas that year or Christmas next year was when Donkey Kong Country 2 came out. So those memories are inextricably linked in my mind, where it was like the holidays. My birthday is in December. Christmas is 25th. And just playing Donkey Kong Country. And 1 and 2 are probably they're probably honestly better platforming games than Super Mario World. I mean, Super Mario World's a great game, but I think Donkey Kong Country is probably better. It's just, yeah, it's still like, I mean, when I think of Mario 3D, what was the Mario game that came out last year? Mario, not Dreams, Mario.
Is it
2023? It's called Mario, and of course they don't like putting this Mario Wonder. I actually think Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is the better 2D platformer between that and Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder was fun. I enjoyed it. The last level was crazy. Good challenge. I played it, finished it. It was insane. But Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is actually like just in my opinion, a better game. And
but
yeah,
then
I'll stick by
Nintendo
that.
put it out on the Switch and decided not to really touch it up or anything. So it looks
like, what are you talking about? They gave you funky mode. Okay, it was definitely worth the extra $10 coming out years later. You had to pay an additional $10 to buy it because it was
it
50
looks
on
like
Wii
it
U.
was stretched and blown up for a 480 p television.
It's the
like
top of
watching
the line
widescreen?
graphics. They did the 4K patch to it. Yes, everybody's used to Nintendo doing 4K, doing 60 FPS, all that stuff. No, yeah, I mean, this generation has been some of the greediest Nintendo remasters ever, but I think a lot of people, myself included, did buy them and played a lot of them because I could play it portably on top of like at home, right? This was the first time. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't look nearly as bad as the Donkey Kong Country Returns remake they're making for January. Like that looks bad. That looks like,
But
because it
people
was
are
a
excited
3DS.
about it.
It was a Wii and 3DS release, and yeah, doesn't look good. I'm sure I'm excited to play it, but I'm not gonna spend $60 on it. So, yeah, so Donkey Kong Country.
You know what I love about Donkey Kong Country? There's something like, even on the Super Nintendo, it looked years ahead of its time.
It was insane.
Because but then there's so much depth to it, not in the story, but like depth to like the character models. Like you see them, they have the shadowing on the back to make it look like they're truly like coming out of the background, whereas Mario was always looked like he was like stuck to the background when he was moving around. But Donkey Kong looked like it was something that you could play on a Super Nintendo Pro or something.
That and Super Mario RPG, which ended the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo life cycle, were some of the most mind-blowing graphics. And the fact they came just right before Mario 64, which was just like, I couldn't even understand it as a kid, right? Like, those are great memories.
Yeah.
Always hit me with another one because I'm probably going to stay Nintendo this whole time.
Oh, all right, Gerald, what do you got for us?
Well, so funny because most of my sheer gaming has either been in like the 80s or in the early to mid 2000s. Yet a lot of the memories I've been bringing up to you guys was in like the 90s when I talked about my days, just now earlier with Daytona, and then earlier, like the last times in the arcades in the early 90s. And then I talked to you about in the previous episode. I also mentioned as far as when I was in the special effects company, we were talking about Doom. But I think one of the times for me is, again, I used to run two game stores as far as for Game Crazy. So, and that was really a lot of fun. That was one of the most fun jobs I had. That was when pre-ordering and lines outside the door, at midnight releases, those were really something. I remember my employees being threatened with violence when GTA 4 didn't come in right away, and we had to wait.
Oh man,
I had to do like thousands of dollars in refunds right there on the spot so they could go down the street. I called the Walmart manager and I down the street. I said, "Hey, have you got copies of GTA 4? I've got 3 dozen people really ready to kill me right now because our batch didn't come in yet." And so, yeah, they said, yeah. So I was like giving out refund after refund after refund until finally 3 hours later, they brought the GTA 4 in. But the best, one of the better moments of my time was the fact that I saw in my store, because my store in North Las Vegas was one of the higher volume stores in the city of either Game Crazy or even GameStop. It was doing some massive volume, but it was a different mix of gamers. And one of the games that they were really looking at more was FIFA at that point in time. And this is 2008. This is 2007, 2008. And I can remember my district manager, him coming in and him being so pissed at me because I had only had like 350 pre-orders for Madden, the usual standard Madden at that point in time. And I'm saying, because we're pushing something else. He says, "Why are you pushing FIFA? Did you take a look at the numbers?" So he pulls up the numbers and he sees these hundreds of pre-orders for FIFA. FIFA had not blown up yet. FIFA was still a couple years away from blowing up, but I could see the trend as far as certain gamers really wanting to lean into something a little bit different. And I know Josh and I have talked about Madden being the same thing virtually every year, and same old. And now FIFA is, even with the breakup between EA and them, it's as far as now FIFA is a separate game and EA has their own soccer game. It's still the FIFA legacy as far as what it was, especially in the early 2010s. By that time, it had blown up huge, and I could see it trending towards that way. And I just feel justified in my belief that I wanted to get my employees behind something I thought that was ahead of the game. I wanted them to be ahead of the game instead of just the same old. And it felt really good to see that coming, as far as, that gaming trend that was coming in the future.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. Wasn't FIFA like the highest grossing game one year? I don't remember which.
Well, it's been more than 1 year. I mean, and then the fact that the what's the All Stars? What's the FIFA? The one where you pay all the microtransactions as far as it's concerned.
It's FIFA. Oh man,
because that, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. The FIFA.
Yeah, it's not the career mode. It's the
one where you have to upgrade all the time. You get the FIFA All Stars. You pay. Yeah, that's requiring for microtransactions. That has made. Well, it did make EA
Ultimate Team.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
That was advented there first before Madden, and they were making a ton of cash, and still do. FIFA does in their own way now with their own game of it for
football club.
Yeah, it's just amazing what FIFA has become, because like you said, FIFA at times outside of GTA, if you're talking about the last decade of games, GTA 5 is the dominant seller of the last decade. Then you talked about the Call of Duties. After that, the game you would probably point to most, if you're not talking a Zelda or Mario, is FIFA, just because of how much success it has achieved. And I just feel justified in my seeing what the future would be going for.
Yeah, Yeah, it's I always growing up, I always was like, oh, I'm gonna work in a game store. I just never materialized, but
You
it
couldn't
sounds
get
like
there.
it was
One day you might. Okay.
one day.
It was
Yeah, I don't know.
fun. Doesn't
It,
pay. Doesn't pay worth the darn, but it was a lot of fun.
yeah, I mean, it sounds fun. It sounds fun too. Because like I especially remember like not, and this I'm jumping into my next memory here, but there was before GameStop, right? There was EB or Electronics Boutique, and
EB
there was
Games.
Funko Land.
Oh, but I got to tell you a story. There's actually in the city of Las Vegas, there's actually still a sign in a not a shopping mall, but a mini mall
Mm.
with an EB Games sign still out
Really?
there. Yes,
No one's rented it in that long?
they've rented the space many times over. They've just
Oh, okay.
never the management company has never taken down the sign. I'm not going to say exactly where because I'm still hopeful I can get it because I know it has some value on it. I don't know how much. Could be like $20 to somebody or $200 or $2,000. Who knows? Like right behind me, those standees, people have asked me for hundreds of dollars on those, especially the Mass
Really?
Effect one. Yeah. I know somebody on eBay posted that one for $1,000 at one
Whoa.
time. I don't know if he ever sold it or not, but I'm just going to say that there is an EB Games sign still out there. It's faded, but you can still see the EB Games clearly. And I'm just hoping one of these days that I can find the management company and say, you know what?
Let me
Want to help a brother out?
Yeah.
That reminds me of the Hollywood Video I passed by. I don't know if it's still there in Carson like a year or two ago that had been closed down. I don't even know how long. I don't even remember when Hollywood Video closed down. But just seeing that abandoned building and knowing that it had been closed probably for a decade or more and no one had rented it out always like blows my mind when you see stuff like that.
What's funny on the Hollywood Video note is if you have a like a video game that has a Blockbuster like sticker on it, it actually makes it a lot more valuable than without. So if you have a used game and it says Blockbuster specialty or whatever on it, like you can actually get a lot more money for it than without, because there are people actually go around looking for those variants.
Like the Clay Fighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
where
You
I
notice
think that's the biggest
we were
one.
thinking. Yeah, we were thinking the same thing.
Yep.
63 and a third, if I remember correctly. They had a Blockbuster edition of it. It was the
Sculptor's
only
Cut.
game that I can think of that actually had a Blockbuster version. I don't know if other games did, but
Yeah,
maybe it's called the Sculptor's Cut. Oh, is that what you said,
Yes,
Gerald?
It's
Yeah.
Sculptor's Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
It is
worth a lot.
the most valuable. How should I say this? Unless you're talking a prototype cartridge, it is the most valuable N64 cartridge.
$150,000 is what they're trying to sell for on eBay right now.
Jeez.
Well, you can get the cartridge itself for around $1,000.
That's just so crazy. This is with the
but-
box.
Yeah, complete in the box, it is that much. The manual, I heard, actually in some cases may go actually be worth more than the cartridge itself.
Yeah, that's why I think it was going for $150,000. It's complete in box with like a block with the receipt showing it.
Holy cow!
Oh my gosh, it's like a holy grail right there. Because Blockbuster, wasn't it like towards the end of their lifespan, they started opening up those little like game zones inside the Blockbusters, and whereas like half movie rental store and half video game rental / purchasing store.
I mean, I honestly can't remember, but I do remember
believe they
Blockbuster
did.
trying a lot of things before they closed.
Trying to stay alive, yeah.
It is funny to see that there is I wonder if it's legit. There's a Clay Fighter 63 and a third box manual GameWorks for $240 on eBay. But there's a part of me that thinks like there's something fishy, right? If all the other people are going for thousands and this one's going for $240 with a box and the instruction booklet, is it actually like legit, right? Like, or is it like a fake?
Yeah. Cool, bro. Thanks for the compliment, man. Appreciate it.
It is a real. It is a real arcade. Yes, just to let you know, that's real photos. Yes, there was real arcades.
There was never a real arcade. Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but there was never such a thing.
Where did I spend all my youth at?
You that was in your mind, man. You were nowhere.
Okay,
you were nowhere doing nothing.
It's like how Sinbad convinced people that his Shazam movie didn't exist. Everyone was wondering like what they watched. That's the same thing with arcades.
So funny because I can tell a lot of people, yeah, I spent hours and hours at the liquor store. But
Yeah,
I
that's
swear I
right.
wasn't drinking liquor.
That's what they want you to believe, okay? They
Mhm.
gave you liquor. They funneled it into your mouth while you were playing Street Fighter 2, okay?
Mhm.
on a Sega Game Gear.
My favorite arcade memory is Little Caesars. They had, like, I think it was Street Fighter 2, and I would always get to play, like, 1 or 2 matches while we picked up pizza as a kid, and it was, like, that, and then there was a warehouse, video or warehouse movies next to it, and it was just so incredible going to rent something and then pick up a pizza. It was, like, the perfect Friday night. Very good.
So I remember too, like Pizza Huts used to have arcades inside of them. So remember that
After
yeah,
soccer games. Oh, I used to love doing that.
soccer games, yeah, karate matches.
Who cared
And
about the soccer games after?
Yeah.
So like,
It
yeah.
was when you gotta hang out and have fun. Yeah, you don't care about the actual match. You go for the pizza.
yeah. So Brank, remember that barcade that we went to last time I was down in California? So
Sitting down.
they have like 3 of the games in there that I used to play at Pizza Hut. They had the one like red motorcycle game, and then they had
Okay.
the Simpsons and Street
Onrush, is
Fighter.
that what it was called? No,
Is
it wasn't
that
called
where
Onrush.
yeah, well you're on it was downstairs and you're on like the red bicycle thing and you're going through this little like virtual reality world. Anyways, they had one of those at Pizza Hut. And I remember spending like tons and tons of quarters on that thing trying to
MotoGP.
get in. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I could never quite get to the end of that one. That one and The Simpsons was always fun. I actually have The Simpsons on my arcade legend set out in the living room there.
Is that a one-up arcade with The Simpsons only? Because if not, I don't care about it, okay?
No, it's not an arcade one up. It's the At Games Arcade Legends, and it has USB ports on it, so you can put
Right
other
on the-
games in
yep,
there.
right
too.
on the
It
console.
sounds like it's illegal to me. I'm gonna have to get Nintendo's lawyers on you.
I didn't say that I did or
Hey,
did
I
not
met
do
up
it.
with them
So
before it was even released here in Las Vegas. It was the coolest thing. I'm
true.
like, yep. And that added feature, like you said, of adding games.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought of like making your own custom arcade cabinet? It sounds so cool. Also, like a giant waste of money, but like to do that with the art and like put Zelda or some game that you wouldn't see in an arcade normally there. I've thought about
Yeah.
that so many times, how fun that would be to get like either your own made marquee art or like, the original stuff and put a game that you shouldn't see in there, right? Like Super Smash Brothers. I'm sure there's a Super Smash Brothers arcade cabinet somewhere. That would be a ton of fun from the 64.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can. There are people online who make custom ones, and you can put a bunch of Nintendo 64 games on there. The issue I've encountered with the At Games arcade cabinet is that it has such a like a low grade processor in it that it
Mhm.
won't play anything past like Sega Saturn. So it won't anything on like PlayStation 1. It won't. It
Okay.
can't.
I
Yeah,
got
it
a,
won't.
I got a Chinese company's hard drive with emulation with a lot of games on it, and I noticed that same thing because my laptop or my desktop, it gets to a certain point, it gets to a certain era, it gets to a certain console, it says, it ain't happening to me. It ain't
Gerald,
happening at all.
you're gonna get in trouble. You can't keep revealing all your sins on this podcast.
I got a hard drive. I'll just say it's a hard drive.
Oh,
It
don't
has-
even say it's a hard drive. He
I don't know where
thinks
it came
he
from.
might have a hard
It has
drive.
it has games like maybe
You
tic
might
tac toe.
have games on a
Tic tac
potential
toe.
hard drive.
There you go.
Allegedly, it allegedly has
Super
games.
tic tac toe. It has on there.
Super Tic Tac Toe. Okay, that's legal. You can get that. Is that on
Crossword
premium
puzzle.
ware? Sudoku free.
Yes, there you go. Absolutely.
All right,
Um,
boys. Last round of memories
okay.
here. We'll go real quick. All right. Funko Land. All right, that's where this next one takes place. I remember going up to my grandma lived in a little farming town called Woodland. This is right outside Sacramento, and is a kind of a podunk town. Or used to be. Now it's it's a lot bigger than it used to be. Now it's got all the modern amenities. Anyways, they had a mall, and inside this mall they had Funko Land, and I was always like, video games were life back then. Back I think it was like fifth grade through middle school. Like video games were life. When you weren't out there talking to your friends about girls and stuff. Actually, no, that wasn't until middle school. But yeah, digging into PlayStation Magazine, finding all the cool games I wanted to play. Funko Land. I always go in there and Every time I went up there, my grandma would buy me a game. One day I got Guardians Crusade, made by Activision. We'd love to see a remake of that game, Microsoft. I remember
No, we
sitting there
don't.
playing. We do. I was sitting there playing it, and I'm like, this was pretty fun. I think that was the last like PlayStation. Well, actually, no, I think Final Fantasy IX was the last RPG I played on PlayStation. But yeah, I was up there for a week, and I just kind of sat in my room at my grandma's house, played Guardians Crusade, ate pizza, and didn't come out into the sunlight unless I had to, go to a restaurant to eat or something. It was pretty nice.
It's the best life, bro. I will say, to give you a couple more real quick Nintendo memories, because I didn't even go last round, but I'm going to give you 2 real quick, fast ones. I think I might have given this one last week, but I can't remember, so I'm giving it again. One of my favorite memories ever was December 1996. It was my 9th birthday. I open a box. It is Nintendo 64 with Super Mario 64 and Wave Race. My parents had used the money that my grandpa had sent me over time to buy me the Nintendo 64 right when it came out, which I didn't even know I had this money. But it was some of the most fun and mind-blowing gaming at the time because I didn't know anyone who had a Nintendo 64. So I was like playing games with 3D graphics I'd never seen before. And to give you a real quick, more modern memory that I'll probably always cherish, honestly, the Nintendo Switch launch. Like, I remember waiting in line and picking it up and playing Breath of the Wild the day it came out, and going to find a Switch Pro controller so I could try it. And just the magic of docking and undocking the Switch and playing this game that still is one of the greatest games ever made, in like a capacity that I couldn't even imagine, right? I probably put 80, 100 hours into the Breath of the Wild, and it was so much fun every minute of it. So yeah, I mean, Nintendo consoles will always hold like a special place in my mind. I mean, last time I know I mentioned this one, the Dreamcast was one of my favorite memories from last week, but Nintendo always has these just great memories. But yeah, those are it.
Yeah, Nintendo is always the one company where you can count on when they're launching a console that it was going to be ridiculously hard to get. Even if you waited outside, like the chance of you being able to pick up one of those units was slim to none. Whereas with like Xbox and PlayStation, the odds were pretty good you were going to get one if you got there at the right time. Yeah. Nintendo, though, like the Wii, I don't know about the Wii U. I wasn't paying much attention to that one, but the Wii and the Switch, I know for sure. Like, I would go.
Neither did the rest of my people that came with me to the Nokia Center that were falling asleep right behind me when it was announced.
Oh, the Wii U?
Yeah.
Yes. We were like way up in the rafters at the Nokia Center, but we had traveled overnight to get there because it was a morning press conference. And yeah, I was watching it and I'm like, whoa, it's way down there. Hey guys, can you see it? Because they just unveiled. Oh, they're all out.
Yeah.
There's like 5 of them just.
It's funny because I remember the stories of the scalpers who bought the Wii U's in bulk to sell them, and them trying to return all the Wii U's after no one bought them because they just had next to no exciting games, right? It just had new Super Mario Brothers U. That was kind of it.
Yeah, I remember my nephew playing a lot of, what was that Lego World game that was pretty popular for a bit? I remember he played a lot of that on there.
Yeah. The Lego City, you mean, game?
Lego City, yeah, that's
Undercover.
one.
Lego City Undercover.
Is that what it was? Where he's
one of the most popular Lego games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on everything now, but that was like it was only on Wii U at the time. And that was like a big, that and New Super Mario Brothers U for the first at least a year outside of, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the single best Wii U game, and it's pretty much just because it's the only one that's still locked on Wii U, is Nintendo Land, the pack-in. That game is actually a ton of fun. But again,
the Wii U games are actually going up, like the 360 games going up in value.
Yeah.
So
the 360 games are going up in value?
Yes.
Oh, really? Yeah. I would have assumed like only Wii U, just because Nintendo doesn't keep their online systems around. You can still buy a lot of 360
once the
games.
NES and 64, once those games became so, the ones that are expensive became expensive. I mean, investors / collectors, whatever you want to call them at this point. They started looking into other avenues. And since the 360 is the most popular of the Xbox consoles, and
Yeah.
actually, it's still revered by gamers everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the 360 prices have shot up. I've watched in recent months that's happened, and then also, like you said, that they're going to look into that as well, as far as the prices rising on that as well with the Wii U, because the Wii U's time period was so short, and there's a lot of quality games on that platform for the short amount of time it appeared.
Most of them on Switch now, but yeah, there's still like a few stuck on the Wii U.
Yeah, well, they also had that weird time period where they're releasing games for both Wii U and Switch. Like Frank just said, but I remember Breath of the Wild came out on Wii U as a simultaneous release, and I
think that was the last Wii U title, though. Honestly, like the last big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And plus, like, if you look at like eBay trends, the more that people talk about the death of physical media, the more people are investing in these older games. Like Gears of War and Halo used to be super cheap games to find, and now they've almost breached that that $5 $5 to $10 value ceiling that they used to be at.
Yeah. Wii U, though, just to real quick stay on that for 1 second, that's the only Nintendo console I didn't buy at launch, or didn't try to get at launch, I should say, right? N64, GameCube, Wii, I had them all by Christmas the year they came out, right? Like the other two came out before I could even purchase anything.
I love my Atomic Purple. Oh,
the GameCube was great. Wii U is the one where I saw it. I was old enough, and I realized, I'm like, I don't think this is worth. I think it was $250 or $300. I was like, I don't think it's worth it. And most people stand by it being. It will probably go down in history, unless Nintendo makes a big mistake on Switch 2, as the worst reviewed Nintendo console ever. Not because of the games, but just because of the design. It looks like a big Fisher Price toy, and it wasn't fun to play on a lot of the time. Like, I did not like the gamepad.
You didn't like having a screen on your controller when you just look at the screen in your living room?
I actually liked the Xbox handle for that better. They had like Smart Glass, which you could just use like an iPad if you wanted to for maps and stuff. There was a lot of neat things done with the Wii U gamepad, but like the problem is it wasn't fun to play for every game that didn't need it, right? Like, it was fun for Nintendo Land because you had to use it, right? You used it as another screen to hide from your friends. But nowadays, it would just make more sense to have like a Switch in the room that could be played handheld while the others need to be like on TV, right? And it's the same exact concept, and it works better. So.
All right, Gerald, you want to wrap us up with one last gaming memory for the
nonstop hot topic? We got it here. We got it.
I was going to say something back to my days doing the store, but I'm going to say something a little bit different. That is you and I, Josh, because you and I, we first bonded over video games.
That's right. I
remember and Spider-Man. That and your work with Spider-Man. So your articles that you wrote.
And how much he hated Spider-Man. Yeah, that was what he wrote articles about, his hatred.
But but you and I talked. You and I started to get to know each other. That's one of the things that we really gravitated towards was our indifference on Jeff Keighley. Oh, actually, I didn't really.
You love Jeff Keighley, Gerald. You're wearing an I Love Jeff Keighley shirt right now. Just you can't see it.
Hide it. My early articles were very harsh on Jeff Keighley. Then now it's just like, okay, he is what he is forever for all the stuff that he does as far as for the gaming community. Yes. Now, mind you, he pads his own pocketbooks while doing so you can.
He's a saint. He's never taken $1. He doesn't even know how to take money.
He takes millions of dollars, but that's beside the point.
His ads are free. Okay. Everybody knows that if you you put an ad out in Game Awards or Summer Game Fest, it's free. Free 99, $0. That's what you pay. He's a saint, modern day saint.
But I'm going to say you and I, Josh, and then obviously get to know you, Brank, and then what you guys did with Topicocalypse, and then Super BS Gamescast, Humanican Media. All the good stuff that you've done then that I've been able to watch, listen to, and be a part of. The E3s that you and I went to. Yeah, the E3 that you and I went to. I remember the trip home where we were trying to record the show, driving back on the freeway.
That's right. Yeah, we're sitting in traffic and we're like, oh, let's just do a podcast. All right.
We were there for the dawn of Microsoft's streaming service as far as them becoming the next Twitch, which didn't actually.
Oh, you were there for what was it called?
It was Mixer, and
Yes.
they
Mixer.
used it to stream the Microsoft conference, and it crashed. I remember
That's
so many
good.
people were so pissed off about that.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's a very good indictment of how great it is. It was
I miss.
showing every-
I think that's
Staple
probably
quality.
one of my best gaming memories is going to E3 every year, and you know I do that. I've been to CES now. I think over 25 times. Is it right around there? I'd have to think about it. Ever since 96. Yeah, it's past 25 years.
Wow.
I still treat it as something special. Every time I was able to go to E3, whether it was with you or without you, with other people and whatnot, I always valued it as something special because of how much was being put into it. And
Yeah.
it's just a shame that we won't see that anymore just because of logistics costs involved, unless we fly over to Europe and go there, because that's really the closest thing to an E3
The last one left.
is
Yeah.
Gamescom. I mean, you could say PAX, whatnot, but PAX is just not East or West, just not large enough, in my opinion, as an entity to qualify in that realm. I think even though they ironically own, I think they own the E3, or
the
they
ESA?
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think
sir.
I think they bought the rights to E3, but I don't know if they'll ever come back again. And that's a shame because E3 was truly something special to the gaming industry. I know that GameStop tried to do something similar with its own GameStop stuff. I saw here, and it was just like it could only fill up half a space. They couldn't even get enough people for that. But when E3 was E3, it was really, as Josh will tell you, it was really something special.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
my biggest problem with PAX is there's not enough energy drink sponsors. So for me, I only want to go to a place that mainly
One thing they
sells
love to
energy
do is
drinks
they
and
love to give
hats.
out antiperspirants. They love to give out at E3.
They say,
used to
"Hey,
love to do that.
Stinky, come over here. Have an antiperspirant."
You always have one person. We were at a Comic-Con recently, and it's a guy holding up a sign that said, "You can afford an $40 anime body pillow. You can afford a thing of deodorant."
Oh, that's
Facts.
sad.
Well, it's not day one you should worry about. It's when you go back for day 2 and day 3. You can
Oh.
smell the difference. It is
Do they
not
just
even
not
funny.
shower? Do the people not shower in that time period? Like, do they just like, hey, we did the opening shower. We don't need a
I think
second
a lot of
shower.
people just sweat a lot really fast at these things because these halls are
I do too.
incredibly hot.
You shower and put on deodorant. You normally don't smell that bad as long as you're, change a shirt and shower and put on deodorant.
When you're
E3
excited
is
about video games, you don't need a shower.
which
Yeah, you
smells
don't
worse,
need to shower.
E3 or CES? That's tough because E3
That's
is.
the ball we needed.
I would say E3 they would smell worse, but that's because CES does by the end of its time get smelly because you got a lot of guys running around there and 100,000 people in suits, so they're sweating it up in suits. But it's usually, since it's in January, not as hot, obviously. So I would say E3 in June, every June when we used to go. Yeah, it was a stink fest by day 2, day 3. So.
This has got me nostalgic. Let me do one more. You guys got like 3 more minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna allow
All
it
right.
just this
I
one
want-
time. We don't allow fun banter over the time limit.
Oh, no. All right. I want to talk about the origin days of Super BS, or maybe slightly past the origins. Where remember we recorded in a Stank Bank's garage.
Yeah,
Remember that? And
we get those nice beers, and then we
we
talk
had
about
we'd be having some pizza and some modern times.
Yeah.
We never were like permitted to go into the house to use the bathroom, so
No,
we
of
always like
course
went
not.
out and peed right outside his garage. So there's like
That's how it should
some-
be.
yeah, I'm sure those plants right there are as green as they have ever been if they have not been ripped out since
They're getting
our
natural water.
buddy
Okay.
left. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Those were fun times. Just hanging out,
I mean, I think anytime you get people together to talk about like a love of anything, especially like video games, I think there's just something so magical about them. Not that cinema and books and music, not that there's not something magical to them. It's just gaming has everything, right? It has the cinematics, it has the the stories from books if you want that. It has incredible music, right? Like some of the best gaming soundtracks, I think, easily stand up with some of the best film soundtracks, right? So
Yeah.
whenever you get to like discuss that, it's just so interesting. And then you're talking about an industry where it's especially now, it takes forever. It takes armies of people, years to make games. There are millions of dollars. It's just so interesting and fascinating. There's so much more to it, right? Like a movie can be made in 4 months, right? You
Yeah.
can film a whole movie. Most productions are done in 4 months with the filming, right? You got the pre and the post. That's the only reason why it takes a long time. But the actual filming portion is never very long. But gaming, there's just so much to it. So yeah, I love those. I loved going to the basement of an undisclosed church. We will not say its name, and discussing Final Fantasy 15 and
right.
talking about the Switch. Even going to Dr. Donna's house after a special event, not a positive event, but a special event, and talking about the podcast there. Even that had memories that were good. But yeah, the peak for me was the garage. It was being there in the same room, having a pizza, having a couple beers, having stupid, dumb humor where you have to hold your finger up to talk or whatever it was, your middle finger up, trying to figure out how to stream it, even though we were failed miserably at it. Yeah, it was cool, you know. And now Gerald's part of the Super BS family too. It was a fun thing. We got to like interview tons of cool people. I still think about Me Games. They released their last game, Shadow Game and Cursed Crew. We
Kingdom
interviewed
Come
them.
Deliverance guys too. Yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed tons of different cool devs that went on to do really big projects because we just reached out and did something neat. So yeah, those are easily in my top gaming memories, are the games that I played just for this, right? Because that's a different type of memory I have than just like, hey, I'm playing this because it's fun, and if I don't like it, I'll shut it off and never turn it on again. So
yeah, I know. It's definitely, this podcast has a very special place in my heart, man.
Yeah, his heart down his pants, as everybody calls it. That's what it's known. And we don't do gross out humor here, okay? We never talk about any type of inappropriate humor.
Never.
That's why we have the child-friendly sticker on our podcast. They have like adults only, they have regular, but then we add child-friendly. We put that on the sticker, and that's why we have the rainbows and unicorns.
What is it? No, it's C, right? Children. That's what they rated like Sesame Street games back in the day, right?
Oh no, you're talking about E.
No,
E
there
for
was
everyone.
one below E. Gerald,
No,
wasn't
there
there
wasn't.
a rating below E?
There was
What?
not a rating below the. When was this?
AO.
Yeah,
adults
that was
only.
for the kids. Yeah, that was the kids.
I don't know.
Was
Maybe
the
I'm
AO
imagining
rating.
things.
I
Anyways.
remember E being the first time. Oh, K to A. You're
K-A,
right.
that's right.
Kids to adults. That is so funny. I miss K to A, man. That was, I think, the N64 era was the K to A.
Yeah, you didn't see that anymore after that.
No, actually, N64 was the end of the K to A. I'm looking at an N64 box for Mario Tennis. It's already at E. So that was Super Nintendo. I don't think Nintendo games had ratings, right? I don't think they had ratings for those. And even Super Nintendo games didn't all have ratings, but I think they started with the K to A stuff at the Super Nintendo. Yeah, I think it's 94, it says. 94 to 98. That's crazy, man. I love the ESRB. They're my favorite. So
anyways, this
hey,
podcast
there's an EC real quick. Sorry. A newsflash, everybody. There is an EC, which is early childhood. So that's
the one I was
sticker
looking for. See, I'm not crazy.
I've never seen it. I've never
about.
seen it used on any games. That's probably why they discontinued it, because no one's ever used it. It's EC.
They just like to have the option, you know. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Dave Mirror's BMX Triple X was an EC game. That's the only one.
Was it really?
That got the rating.
Right. No.
That was the game for kids. So play that one, kids. Please don't listen to this podcast if you're a kid. Okay. Hooray. We did it.
All right.
We made it.
Another great episode of the Super BS. So let me throw an idea at you guys here. I think that since it's spooky season, you know, or it's getting close to spooky season, we need to talk about our favorite spooky games. All right. And not right now, because we're done for this podcast episode.
We're done for the year.
For the year, yeah. Actually, we were just canceled, so we're done in general. I'm just kidding.
We lost
but
it.
Yeah, just think about it. On an upcoming episode, scariest games we ever played. Not, you know, I'll tell my Resident Evil Village story.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be there for the scariest games. I don't like being spooked, but I will talk about Banjo-Kazooie's Halloween level, my favorite Halloween level in gaming.
Oh no. You have like Kingdom Hearts Nightmare Before Christmas level.
I am not going to play that level ever again, sir. So I will
All
never
right,
play Kingdom
well,
Hearts again.
we're a podcast about video games mostly, and this has been another great episode of Super BS Gamescast. You also, I just put our RSS feed on YouTube now, so you can check us out.
Boing, 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 boing.
Yeah. So check us out there. Leave some comments, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Hell yeah.
Peace.
Super
BS.